The tires shrieked, a metallic scream tearing through the night. But it wasn't the sound of brakes. It was the brutal tearing of rubber, a ragged, violent rip as the vehicle slammed onto something unseen. A figure emerged from the shadows, a glint in her eyes, not of triumph, but of a chilling, desperate resolve. The world tilted, spun, and for a terrifying second, all I saw was the jagged line of what looked like steel teeth, glinting under the streetlights, laid out with deliberate malice. Then, the sickening crunch of metal on asphalt, the smell of burnt rubber, and the terrifying realization. She wasn't just trying to stop me. She was trying to end me. And the twist? She thought she'd disappear into the darkness, but the trap she laid was about to snare her instead. The evening had started like any other. A lukewarm takeout container of pad thai sat half-eaten on Liam's kitchen counter, its steam long gone. The glow of his laptop screen illuminated his face, casting long shadows that mirrored the ones growing inside him. For months, the legal battle had been a slow, agonizing bleed, draining not just his finances but his spirit. The custody of Lily, his 7-year-old daughter, hinged on a court date just 3 weeks away, and the odds, thanks to Amelia, were stacked precariously. Against him, Amelia Thorne. The name itself was a bitter taste in his mouth. His ex-wife, once the love of his life, had become a stranger cloaked in vindictiveness. Their divorce had been messy, fueled by her accusations and his quiet despair, but nothing had prepared him for the ferocity with which she pursued sole custody. Every phone call was a veiled threat, every email a poisoned arrow. He'd tried to be reasonable, to co-parent, to find common ground for Lily's sake. It was like trying to negotiate with a Category 5 hurricane. Tonight the hurricane had hit. His phone buzzed, vibrating on the counter next to the cold noodles. It was a text from Lily's school, a terse, automated message. Student pickup required immediately. Urgent matter. His stomach clenched. Lily was supposed to be with Amelia this week. His heart hammered against his ribs as he dialed Amelia's number. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. A cold dread seeped into his bones. Lily. Urgent matter. No answer from Amelia. He grabbed his keys, the half-eaten food forgotten. The drive to Lily's elementary school, usually a 10-minute jaunt through familiar suburban streets, felt like an eternity. Each traffic light was a personal affront, each slower car a deliberate obstruction. His mind raced, constructing 1,000 terrible scenarios. Had Lily been hurt? Was Amelia involved? As he pulled into the dimly lit school parking lot, the scene that greeted him sent a fresh wave of panic through his system. Not a chaotic rush of ambulances or police cars, but something far more unsettling in its quiet intensity. A lone patrol car was parked askew near the main entrance, its blue and red lights flashing softly, painting the wet asphalt in shifting hues. A small knot of teachers huddled together, their faces etched with concern. And standing apart, near the patrol car, a figure he recognized instantly, Amelia. She was talking to a police officer, her posture stiff, her words low and urgent. He killed his engine, the sudden silence deafening. The air crackled with unspoken tension. He saw Lily then, sitting on a bench just inside the school's main doors, her small shoulders hunched, a school counselor kneeling beside her, talking softly. Lily's head was down, her usually bright red backpack slumped beside her. He got out, his legs feeling heavy. Amelia saw him, and her head snapped up. Her eyes, usually so calculating, were wide, almost manic. A flicker of something unreadable passed through them. Fear? Resentment? He couldn't tell. "Liam," she spat, her voice tight, barely audible over the hum of the patrol car's lights. "What are you doing here?" "I got a text from the school." "What happened? Where's Lily?" He strode towards her, his voice low, controlled, but laced with a barely suppressed tremor. He risked a glance at the officer, a burly man with a tired face who watched their interaction with a neutral, professional gaze. Amelia took a step back, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. "It's nothing. A misunderstanding. I was just talking to the officer about a school issue." "A school issue that requires immediate pickup and a police presence?" Liam scoffed, his patience worn thin. "Amelia, what did you do?" "Didn't do anything," she hissed, her voice rising. "It's your fault. Everything is always your fault, Liam." The officer cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, we were just discussing a situation involving your daughter. Ms. Thorne brought her to school early this morning, claiming she was unwell. However, there were some discrepancies in her account." Discrepancies, the polite police euphemism for lies. Liam felt a cold rage begin to simmer. "What discrepancies?" "It seems Ms. Thorne attempted to pick up Lily from school yesterday, well outside the agreed-upon custody schedule, citing an emergency that, upon investigation, didn't exist," the officer explained, his gaze shifting between Liam and Amelia. When denied, she became quite agitated. "This morning, she brought Lily in unusually early before the school officially opened and then left her. Left her. Alone." Liam's blood ran cold. "Amelia, is that true?" Her eyes narrowed, the manic glint returning. "She wasn't alone. The janitor was there, and I had to leave. I had an important meeting. You wouldn't understand. Liam, you never put your career first like I have to. You left our 7-year-old daughter at school before it even opened?" Liam's voice was a low growl. "Without telling anyone? Without confirming someone would be there to watch her?" The officer interjected, "Ms. Thorne, we've also received reports from school staff regarding erratic behavior on your part over the last few weeks. This incident, combined with previous concerns, is leading us to consider further action." Amelia's face contorted, a mask of fury and desperation. "You can't do this. This is a setup. He's trying to poison you against me. He always does." She pointed a trembling finger at Liam. "He wants to take Lily away. He's trying to frame me." "Ms. Thorne, we have multiple witness statements," the officer stated firmly. "And your own admission that you dropped off your daughter unsupervised at an unapproved time." Liam looked at Amelia, really looked at her. Her makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled, and beneath the anger, he saw a frantic, cornered animal. This wasn't just about custody anymore. This was something darker, more dangerous. "I have to go," Amelia suddenly declared, her voice unnervingly calm. She pushed past Liam, almost stumbling, and headed towards her car. "This is ridiculous. I'm done here. Ms. Thorne, I strongly advise you to stay," the officer called after her, but she ignored him, fumbling with her car keys. Liam watched her go, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. This wasn't a retreat. This was a tactical withdrawal. He felt it in his bones. He knew Amelia. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning of her escalation. As her car peeled out of the lot, tires squealing in defiance, Liam knew he had just witnessed the moment the ground beneath their already shaky truce gave way, plunging them into a conflict that would know no bounds. The next move, he realized, would be hers, and it would be far worse than anything he could imagine. The drive home with Lily was quiet, filled with the unspoken weight of the incident. Lily, usually a chatterbox, was subdued, clutching her teddy bear, her small face pale in the dim light of the car. Liam kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, his heart aching. He wanted to scoop her up, tell her everything would be okay, but he knew hollow promises wouldn't suffice. What had Amelia said to her? How much had she seen or understood? He pulled into their driveway, the familiar 2-story house a beacon of uneasy calm. Lily trudged inside, heading straight for her room. "I just want to draw, Daddy," she mumbled, not looking at him. His stomach clenched. That was her coping mechanism, her retreat. Liam stood in the living room, the silence pressing. in on him. The encounter with the police officer replayed in his mind. Further action. What did that mean? He pulled out his phone, his thumb hovering over his lawyer's number. Mark Reynolds, a family law attorney with a reputation for being as sharp as he was empathetic, had been his anchor through the divorce. But even Mark had warned him that the emotional toll of these battles could be devastating. He called Mark. "Mark, it's Liam. Something happened at Lily's school tonight." He recounted the chaotic scene, Amelia's strange behavior, and the officer's vague warnings. Mark listened patiently, his voice calm when he finally responded. "Liam, I'm not surprised. Amelia's pattern of escalating behavior has been clear. Leaving Lily unsupervised, the false emergency calls, this is exactly what we've been documenting for the court. But what now?" The officer mentioned further action. Will she be charged? It's possible, given the witness statements from the school. Child endangerment, possibly. But even if she's not, this strengthens our case significantly. The court will see this as a clear pattern of instability and disregard for Lily's safety. "I just want it to be over, Mark. I want Lily to be safe." Liam ran a hand through his hair, the exhaustion seeping into his bones. "I know, Liam. We're almost there. This incident might be the turning point we needed, as much as it pains me to say it. Get a good night's sleep. Keep Lily close. I'll reach out to the school and the police department first thing in the morning to get their full reports. We'll file an emergency motion for temporary sole custody first thing tomorrow." The idea of an emergency motion, of taking Lily away from Amelia completely, felt both necessary and brutal. It was a step he'd always hoped to avoid, a final, irreparable tear in the already fragile fabric of their family. But seeing Lily's pale face, feeling the fear that Amelia instilled, left him with no other choice. The next few days were a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and hushed conversations. The emergency motion was filed. A temporary restraining order, preventing Amelia from coming within a certain distance of Lily or the school, was also issued, pending a hearing. Liam installed a new security system at his house, feeling a primal need to protect his daughter from the storm he knew was brewing. He found himself constantly checking the locks, glancing out the windows, an uneasy vigilance his new normal. Amelia's response was swift and predictable, a barrage of angry, accusatory emails and voicemails, each one more unhinged than the last. She called him a liar, a manipulator, accused him of fabricating evidence, and swore she would fight him until her last breath. He ignored them all, per Mark's advice, forwarding everything to his lawyer. Then, the silence. An unnerving, profound silence. It lasted for 2 days. No emails, no texts, no angry voicemails. Liam tried to tell himself it was a good sign, that perhaps the temporary restraining order had finally scared her, that she was finally retreating. But a nagging voice in the back of his mind screamed otherwise. He knew Amelia. This wasn't peace. This was the calm before the next bigger storm. Lily seemed to be recovering slowly. She was drawing again, her colorful creations filling the refrigerator door. She started talking about school, about her friends, but sometimes in the middle of a sentence, she'd go quiet, her eyes distant. He'd hug her, hold her tight, and whisper promises of safety. One evening, a week after the school incident, Liam was putting Lily to bed. The house was quiet. The only sound, the soft rustle of Lily turning pages in her bedtime storybook. As he tucked her in, she looked up at him, her brow furrowed. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetie?" "Mommy was saying some bad things about you. That you hate her and want to take me away forever." Her voice was small, wavering. Liam felt a familiar wave of anger mixed with profound sadness. "Mommy is just very upset right now, Lily. She's going through a difficult time, but Daddy loves you more than anything. And I would never, ever let anyone take you away. You're safe with me." Lily nodded, but her gaze was still troubled. She said you were going to be sorry. Sorry for what, honey? I don't know, Lily whispered, her eyes drooping with sleep. Just sorry. The words hung in the air, a chilling echo. You were going to be sorry. It wasn't a threat Lily understood, but Liam did. It was pure Amelia, a promise of retribution. The next morning, Liam woke with a sense of unease that he couldn't shake. He went through his routine mechanically, making breakfast, getting Lily ready for school. He dropped her off, lingering a moment longer than usual, watching her walk inside, her red backpack a bright spot against the gray building. As he drove to work, the unsettling feeling intensified. His usual route took him through a quiet, tree-lined street that paralleled a small, rarely used industrial park. He'd always enjoyed the brief reprieve from traffic, the dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves. Today, however, something felt off. The street was strangely empty, even for a weekday morning. The air was still, too still. He rounded a gentle curve, his gaze idly sweeping the road ahead. And then he saw it. A dark, low-slung object stretched across the entire width of the road, barely visible against the asphalt. It was roughly 6 feet long, made of what looked like heavy-duty rubber, and embedded within it, glinting wickedly in the morning sun, were rows of razor-sharp steel spikes, angled upwards, pointing directly at his tires. A spike strip. His blood ran cold. His foot slammed on the brake, sending the car lurching violently forward. The tires shrieked, a sound of desperation, but it was too late. He was too close. The front left tire hit the strip with a sickening thud, immediately followed by the right. A loud hiss, like a dying snake, emanated from both front tires. The car jerked, pulled sharply to the left, and began to wobble precariously. Through the windshield, his eyes darted frantically, searching for a culprit, a shadow, anything. His gaze landed on a black SUV, parked innocuously behind a stand of overgrown bushes in the industrial park. Its windows were tinted, but through the slight gap of the driver's side window, he caught a glimpse of a face. Amelia. Her eyes met his, cold and triumphant. A ghost of a smile, thin and cruel, stretched across her lips. It was a fleeting image, gone in an instant as she stomped on the gas, her SUV roaring away, leaving him stranded, tires hissing their last breath on a quiet, abandoned road. Liam gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. The air inside the car felt suddenly thin, his breath ragged. He looked down at his deflating tires, then back at the empty spot where Amelia's car had been. It wasn't just vengeance. This was an attempt to disable him, to put him in danger, to make him sorry. The implications of what she had just done, the sheer premeditation and malice of it, hit him with the force of a physical blow. She had moved beyond emotional warfare. She was now actively putting his life at risk. And the chilling realization that she would stop at nothing to win, even if it meant endangering him, left him with a terrifying absolute certainty. This was no longer just a custody battle. This was war. The smell of burnt rubber filled the air, acrid and metallic, stinging Liam's nostrils. His hands were still clamped on the steering wheel, the shock vibrating through his entire body. He stared at the spike strip, now clearly visible in the morning light, its steel teeth glinting mockingly. 2 tires shredded beyond repair. His heart pounded, not from the sudden stop, but from the raw, unadulterated terror of Amelia's deliberate act. She had been there. She had watched. Her smile, a chilling tableau, burned into his memory. He forced himself to breathe. Slow, deep breaths, trying to quell the rising panic. He couldn't just sit here. He had to call the police. This wasn't just a flat tire. This was an assault. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers trembling, and dialed 911. "My name is Liam Carter. My car just hit a spike strip on Miller Road near the old industrial park. I believe it was intentionally placed. He tried to keep his voice steady, professional, but a tremor betrayed him. I also saw my ex-wife, Amelia Thorne, in a black SUV driving away from the scene immediately after it happened. The dispatcher's voice was calm, guiding him. "Are you injured, sir? Is anyone else with you?" "No, I'm alone, and I'm okay. Just shaken. My car, though, it's undrivable." Within 15 minutes, the quiet road was swarming with police. Patrol cars, flashing their blue and red lights, illuminated the scene. Officers in crisp uniforms examined the spike strip, photographed the tire damage, and meticulously searched the area. Liam recounted the morning's events, the school incident, the restraining order, the recent silence from Amelia, and finally, the horrifying sight of her face in the black SUV. The lead detective, a no-nonsense woman named Detective Miller, listened intently, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Carter, this is a serious accusation. We'll need to impound your vehicle as evidence, and we'll need to formally question Ms. Thorne. Do you have her current address?" Liam provided it, along with Mark Reynolds' contact information. He felt a grim satisfaction, a sense of vindication, mixed with profound weariness. This was it. This was the moment Amelia's recklessness would finally catch up with her. Hours later, after providing a detailed statement at the police station and arranging for a tow truck, Liam called Mark. His lawyer was already aware of the situation, having been contacted by Detective Miller. "Liam, I'm sorry you had to go through this," Mark said, his voice laced with concern. "This is a felony, potentially attempted assault with a deadly weapon. The spike strip is clearly designed to cause harm, not just disable a vehicle." "Will they arrest her?" "They're going to try. Given her history, the restraining order, and now this. It looks very bad for her. The police are gathering surveillance footage from nearby businesses, checking traffic cameras. If they can confirm her vehicle was there or even a vehicle matching the description, it's a strong case." The next few days were a tense waiting game. Lily was still shaken by the school incident, clinging to Liam more than usual. He tried to shield her from the grim reality of what was happening, but children were perceptive. She sensed his anxiety, the heavy silence that permeated their home when he was on the phone with Mark. Meanwhile, Amelia had seemingly vanished. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her apartment, according to the police, was empty. It was as if she had dissolved into thin air, leaving behind only the wreckage of Liam's car and the lingering scent of burnt rubber. "She's gone underground, Liam," Mark informed him. "Her lawyer is claiming she's out of town on urgent business and unreachable, but the police aren't buying it. There's an active warrant out for her arrest. They believe she's actively evading apprehension." The news brought a strange mix of relief and frustration. Relief that she couldn't immediately hurt him again, frustration that she was still out there, a phantom threat hanging over their lives. Then, a new wave of attacks began, not physical but digital. Liam's work email was flooded with anonymous messages, each one containing fabricated stories about his supposed unfitness as a parent, his alleged history of abuse, and bizarre conspiracy theories about him framing Amelia. His social media profiles, which he rarely used, were bombarded with similar comments, some even mentioning Lily by name. It was a smear campaign, vicious and relentless, designed to destroy his reputation and undermine his custody case. He forwarded everything to Mark, who advised him to restrict his social media, change his passwords, and ignore the noise. "This is her new tactic, Liam, to discredit you, to make you look unstable just like she always does. It's desperation. It shows she's losing. But it's terrifying, Mark. What if Lily sees this? What if her school sees this? It's all lies. We'll address it in court. This only further proves her malicious intent and erratic behavior. It confirms her mental state is deteriorating. The judge will see through it. Despite Mark's reassurances, Liam felt exposed, vulnerable. He imagined Amelia, somewhere, hunched over a keyboard, fueled by rage, weaving this tangled web of deceit. He checked the security cameras he'd installed, reviewing the footage endlessly, searching for any sign of her, any breach of the restraining order. One afternoon, a little over a week after the spike strip incident, Liam was at home, working remotely, Lily at school. He was on a video conference call trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy when his phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. He dismissed it, focusing on his call. It rang again, and again. Persistent. He finally muted his video and picked up. "Hello?" A distorted, raspy voice, clearly using a voice changer, filled his ear. It was Amelia. He knew it instinctively. Her voice, though altered, carried her distinct cadence, the underlying note of vindictive glee. "Enjoying your little life, Liam?" The voice crackled, chilling him to the bone. "Thinking you've won? You haven't. Not by a long shot. I know what you're doing. I know about your little cameras, your little lawyer. You think you can hide? You think you can take Lily from me? You'll regret this. You'll regret this more than anything you've ever done." Liam's hand tightened around the phone. "Amelia, this is harassment. You're violating the restraining order. The police are looking for you." The voice cackled, a dry, unsettling sound. "The police? They won't find me. Not until I'm ready. And when I'm ready, Liam, you'll wish you had just let me have my daughter. You'll wish you had never been born." The call disconnected abruptly. Liam stared at his phone, his heart hammering. She was watching him. She knew about the cameras. The chilling realization sent a shiver down his spine. The security system, which he thought would provide a barrier, was already compromised. How? Had she somehow gained access? Or was she physically near, observing him? He immediately called Mark. "She just called me. She used a voice changer, but it was her. She knows about the cameras. She threatened me." Mark's voice was grim. "Stay calm, Liam. This is more evidence. We need to trace that call. Did she say anything else?" "She said I'd regret not letting her have Lily, and that I'd wish I'd never been born." Liam's voice wavered. "She sounds unhinged, Mark. Truly unhinged. She is, Liam, and that makes her dangerous. I'm going to advise you to not be alone in the house if possible. Have a friend or family member stay with you, at least until she's apprehended, and we need to get Lily out of here for a bit. Perhaps with your sister?" The thought of sending Lily away, even temporarily, was painful. But the alternative was unbearable. He couldn't risk her safety. That evening, as Liam packed a small bag for Lily, preparing to take her to his sister Sarah's house, a new email popped up on his computer. It wasn't from an anonymous sender. It was from Amelia's work email, an account he knew she still used for official correspondence, an account the police were likely monitoring. The subject line read, "A little gift." His breath hitched. He clicked it open, a cold dread washing over him. The email contained a single attachment, a high-resolution, recent photograph of Lily. She was sitting at her desk in her classroom at school, drawing. Her face was clear, unmistakable. In the background, partially visible, was her teacher. The image was taken from outside the classroom window, slightly angled, a perfect, chilling shot. It was undeniable proof that Amelia had been at the school, in direct violation of the restraining order, close enough to photograph Lily without anyone noticing. Not just that, but she had sent it from her known email address, an act of almost unbelievable hubris, or perhaps utter mental breakdown. Liam stared at the photo, a sick wave of nausea washing over him. She hadn't just placed the spike strips. She hadn't just launched a smear campaign. She had been at Lily's school. She had been watching his daughter, and she had sent him the picture as a declaration, a twisted, terrifying message. This wasn't just war anymore. This was a psychological game, a deadly game, and Amelia was escalating the stakes, pushing him to the brink, daring him to react. He knew with a horrifying certainty that this single photograph was the turning point. It wasn't about winning anymore, it was about survival. And Amelia, by sending it, had just signed her own death warrant, not literally, but legally. She had given him the irrefutable evidence he needed, a golden thread leading directly to her. And she didn't even know it. The photograph of Lily, innocent and unaware at her school desk, shimmered on Liam's screen like a chilling taunt. He felt a cold, hard resolve settle in his gut, replacing the nauseous dread. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about protecting Lily from a mother spiraling into something truly dangerous. Amelia had crossed a line, a legal and moral chasm that there was no coming back from. He immediately forwarded the email to Mark, a terse message accompanying it. She was at the school. She sent this. From her work email. The phone rang almost instantly. Liam, I've got it. This is huge. Unbelievably reckless of her, but it's exactly what we need. This picture, sent from her verifiable work account, is irrefutable proof she violated the restraining order and has been stalking Lily. This isn't just harassment anymore. It's a criminal offense we can prove. Mark's voice, usually calm, held a new edge of urgency, almost excitement. I'm contacting Detective Miller right now. They'll be able to trace this email, likely use the metadata from the image to pinpoint its origin, even if she used a burner device for the photo itself. We might just get her. The legal wheels, once turning slowly, began to churn with a terrifying velocity. The police, armed with the new evidence, intensified their search for Amelia. Liam felt a strange sense of detachment, as if watching a movie unfold. He had done his part. The outcome was now in the hands of the law. He took Lily to his sister, Sarah's house that evening. Sarah, a no-nonsense elementary school teacher herself, understood the gravity of the situation instantly. She hugged Liam tightly, her eyes full of sympathy. Don't worry, Liam. Lily will be safe here. We'll make sure of it. Lily, sensing the hushed urgency in her father's voice and the solemn expressions of the adults, hugged him goodbye with unusual fervor. You'll come back soon, right, Daddy? Of course, sweetie. Just for a few days, like a little sleepover vacation. Aunt Sarah has some great new games, I bet. He forced a smile, his voice light, trying to reassure her. The lie tasted like ash. Alone in his quiet house, the silence was no longer unsettling. It was deafening. He wandered through the rooms, the emptiness amplifying his anxiety. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside made him jump. He checked the security system again, not for Amelia's benefit, but for his own fragile sense of control. Days blurred into a tense waiting game. News channels, to Liam's horror, began to pick up on the story. Local man's custody battle escalates to dangerous proportions. One headline blared, ex-wife suspected in spike strip attack, child endangerment. While his name was typically protected by the ongoing custody proceedings, Amelia's public profile as a successful, if volatile, businesswoman made her disappearance and the accusations a sensational story. He saw blurry images of his impounded car on TV, heard legal experts debate the ramifications of the spike strip incident. The privacy of his nightmare was gone, replaced by the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Mark had warned him this might happen. It's unavoidable when a story involves a public figure in such unusual criminal activity. We'll handle it. It might even work in our favor, showing the judge the extent of her desperation and instability. But for Liam, it felt like another invasion. His personal tragedy was now entertainment, fodder for talk shows and online commentators. He felt sickened, but helpless. Then, the break. It came late one night, almost a week after the email. Liam was trying to read, but his mind kept replaying the image of Amelia's cruel smile. His phone rang. It was Detective Miller. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice brisk, efficient. "We found her. Amelia Thorne was apprehended approximately 2 hours ago crossing the state line into Arizona. Her black SUV was flagged by an automated license plate reader. We had an all-points bulletin out on the vehicle." Liam felt a rush of adrenaline, followed by a dizzying wave of relief. She's in custody?" "Yes." She resisted arrest, but no one was harmed. "She's being held on the warrant for the spike strip incident, the violation of the restraining order, and now resisting arrest. We're working with the Arizona authorities to get her extradited back here. It might take a few days, but she's off the streets." "Thank God," Liam breathed, the words escaping him in a ragged whisper. The tension that had been a constant, oppressive weight in his chest for weeks finally began to dissipate, leaving him feeling lightheaded, almost hollow. "The evidence is strong, Mr. Carter," Detective Miller continued. "The spike strip, the eyewitness account, the email with the photo from the school, and her flight from justice. It all paints a very clear picture. We also found some interesting things in her vehicle. A collection of burner phones, some concerning documents referencing you and Lily, and a stack of printed-out anonymous online posts targeting you. It confirms her intent and the digital harassment you experienced." Liam listened, a grim satisfaction spreading through him. Every piece of the tangled web Amelia had woven was now unraveling, each thread leading back to her. The malicious calls, the smear campaign, the dangerous trap on the road, all undeniable, all pointing to her. She thought she was so clever, so untraceable, but her own hubris, her desperate need to leave a final terrifying mark, had undone her. He called Mark immediately, the good news making his voice crack with emotion. "They got her, Mark. Amelia's in custody." "Excellent news, Liam. This is exactly what we needed. With her apprehended, the emergency motion for sole custody will be much easier to solidify. And the criminal charges? She's facing serious jail time, Liam. This isn't a slap on the wrist. She's looking at multiple felonies. Her actions were extreme." Liam sat down, exhaustion finally overcoming him. The house still felt empty, but the suffocating fear that had permeated it was gone. He was still reeling from the past few weeks, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of hope. Lily was safe, and Amelia, for all her calculated cruelty, had trapped herself. She had tried to destroy him, to take everything he held dear, but in her desperate attempt to inflict pain, she had instead forged the very chains that would now bind her. The justice he had so desperately yearned for, not just for himself, but for the peace of mind of his daughter, was finally within reach. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but the storm, he realized, was finally breaking, and Amelia, in a cruel twist of fate, was now facing the very confinement she had tried to impose on his own life. The news of Amelia's arrest spread quickly, a ripple through Liam's carefully constructed world. The public fascination with the custody battle-turned-crime spree intensified, reporters camping out near the courthouse, eager for any tidbit. Liam, shielded by Mark's expert guidance, tried to ignore the frenzy. His focus was singular: Lily. The day Amelia was extradited back to their state was a blur of police updates and legal strategizing. Detective Miller confirmed that Amelia, once back in local custody, had refused to cooperate, maintaining a stony silence, a last-ditch effort at control. It was a futile gesture. The evidence against her was overwhelming. The custody hearing was expedited, scheduled for the following week, given the new criminal charges. Liam met with Mark daily, reviewing every detail, preparing for what would be a brutal, albeit decisive, battle. The temporary sole custody motion for Liam was granted almost immediately, the judge citing Amelia's demonstrated pattern of erratic, dangerous, and illegal behavior that poses a clear and present danger to the child's well-being. It was a victory, but a hollow one, tinged with the sadness of what had to be done. When the day of the criminal trial finally arrived, the courthouse was packed. News cameras flashed, reporters scribbled furiously, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Liam sat beside Mark, his gaze fixed on the double doors through which Amelia would enter. He hadn't seen her since that terrifying glimpse in the SUV, her triumphant, cruel smile. He wondered if she still held that same defiance. She entered, flanked by two bailiffs, her shoulders back, her chin held high. Her eyes scanned the courtroom, defiant, until they landed on Liam. For a fleeting moment, her composure faltered. A flicker of something, fear perhaps, or a deep, desperate anger, crossed her face. But then it was gone, replaced by a cold, practiced indifference. She was playing a role, trying to project strength, but Liam saw the tremor in her hands, the subtle tension in her jaw. The mask was cracking. The prosecution laid out their case with devastating precision. Detective Miller testified, detailing the discovery of the spike strip, the damage to Liam's vehicle, the eyewitness account. They presented the phone records of Amelia's threatening call, the digital trail of her smear campaign, and finally, the damning photograph of Lily at school sent from Amelia's personal work email. The metadata in the image, the prosecution explained, pinpointed the exact time and GPS coordinates of where the photo was taken, placing Amelia in direct violation of the restraining order. Amelia's defense, led by a stern-faced, seasoned criminal attorney, attempted to paint Liam as an unstable, vengeful ex-husband who fabricated evidence. They argued that Amelia was a loving mother driven to desperation by an unjust custody battle, a victim of Liam's malicious manipulation. They tried to dismiss the spike strip as a random act of vandalism, the phone call as an untraceable prank, and the email as a hack, but the prosecution systematically dismantled their claims. Expert witnesses testified about the specialized nature of the spike strip, inconsistent with random vandalism. Cybersecurity experts confirmed the origin of the email and the image's metadata. The voice recognition software, though not definitive, on its own, lent weight to Liam's identification of the caller. And crucially, the police presented the evidence found in Amelia's impounded SUV, the burner phones, the printed-out anonymous posts, the detailed obsessive notes about Liam and Lily. It was a mountain of evidence, each piece a brick in the wall closing in around her. Liam took the stand, his voice steady as he recounted the emotional and physical toll of Amelia's actions. He spoke of his fear for Lily, the sleepless nights, the constant anxiety. He showed the judge and jury the innocent drawing Lily had made that day at school, the same drawing captured in Amelia's chilling photograph. His testimony was not about anger, but about a father's desperate plea for his daughter's safety and peace. The cross-examination by Amelia's lawyer was brutal, trying to poke holes in his character, his memory, his motivations. But Liam, grounded by Mark's preparation and his unwavering love for Lily, held firm. He simply spoke his truth, calmly and clearly. Amelia herself did not take the stand. Her lawyer rested their case, a quiet concession to the overwhelming evidence. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. When the verdict was read, the courtroom held its breath. On the charge of attempted assault with a deadly weapon, we find the defendant Amelia Thorne guilty. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. On the charge of violation of a restraining order, we find the defendant Amelia Thorne guilty. And then, a list of lesser charges, including harassment and child endangerment, each met with the same resounding guilty. Amelia's face remained remarkably blank, but Liam saw it. A tremor that ran through her body, a barely perceptible slump of her shoulders. Her lawyer patted her arm, his face grim. The mask had finally shattered. The sentencing hearing was weeks later. The judge, a seasoned veteran of family court, listened to the arguments for and against leniency. Liam, at Mark's urging, delivered a victim impact statement, not seeking revenge, but asking for protection for Lily and for Amelia to receive the help she clearly needed. The judge's voice was stern, heavy with the weight of justice. "Miss Thorne, your actions demonstrate a shocking disregard for human life, a deliberate attempt to inflict harm, and a relentless campaign of terror against your former spouse, and, most disturbingly, against your own child. While this court acknowledges the emotional distress of divorce, it cannot condone or excuse criminal behavior of this magnitude. You posed a significant threat to Mr. Carter, and by your actions you caused immense emotional trauma to your daughter, Lily, and placed her in harm's way." He paused, his gaze fixed on Amelia, who finally looked away, her eyes cast downwards. "For these crimes, Ms. Thorne, I sentence you to 7 years in state prison." The gavel slammed down, a sound of absolute finality. 7 years. A lifetime. Amelia flinched, a small, involuntary movement, but then she was escorted away, her head still held unnaturally high, disappearing through the same doors she had entered, but this time into a very different future. Liam watched her go, not with triumph, but with a profound sense of exhaustion and quiet relief. The battle was over. The storm had passed. Days later, Liam picked Lily up from Sarah's house. Lily ran into his arms, her laugh echoing bright and clear. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by the innocent joy of a child reunited with her safe parent. As they drove home, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, Lily chattered about her drawings, her friends, her plans for a tea party with her teddy bears. Liam listened, truly listened, the sound of her voice a balm to his soul. The house, once filled with unspoken dread, now felt like a haven. He looked at Lily, secure in her car seat, and realized that for the first time in years, a future without the constant shadow of Amelia's vindictiveness was possible. Justice had been served, not just in a courtroom, but in the quiet, profound peace settling over his home, in the reclaiming of his daughter's childhood, and in the dawn of a new, safer life for them both. The trap Amelia had laid for him had indeed snared her, and Liam and Lily were finally free.